How's that? Is that audio coming through? Sounds like behind me, so sounds good. Hopefully that's a fine online. Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Greenwood. I'm the manager of the regional compilations team at the GSQ, and I'm going to be going through the programs we completed under the SREP, particularly geophysical programs. There we go. So as part of the new discovery programs, there was originally $4.2 million set aside for geophysical programs. After some COVID budgetary edits, and some money was drawn back into Treasury, we ended up with spending about $3.6 million on geophysics over the 4-year program. That included a set of 100-meter airborne magnetic and radiometric surveys, a ground gravity survey, a fair amount of MT data and inversion. And then there was a second part within the SREP called the Frontier Gas Basin Program. And there was about $3 million spent in that, primarily on a deep seismic survey up in the Kamilaroi area. So I'm going to be talking about those programs. I'm going to talk a bit about some future work we've done under NEMI and will be doing under NEMI, but that's my focus of the talk today. So I guess first, talking about the airborne geophysical surveys, the first question comes up, why? So most of you would have seen this data set. This is the MIM Airborne Geophysical Survey. It was flown between 1990 and 1992. There were 20 odd blocks of data. It was flown over 3 years, 30 odd blocks of data, and was amazingly state out at the time. Covers a fair amount of the Mount Isa area. It's a massive survey. The data was never directly submitted to GSQ. So what we ended up getting was basically an eastern northern mag, and then the radiometric channels. So we didn't have a great understanding of the processing steps that were done to the data. And so there was limited capacity of using that data for future modeling. But also, as Mount Isa is such a prospective area, we saw the advantage of having much higher resolution data in that area. So this started back in 2018, where we flew firstly Cloncurry South and Mary Kathleen. So Cloncurry South was a 100-meter mag survey, and Mary Kathleen was a 50-meter mag survey, which was undertaken as part of our technical service or abandoned mines unit. Requested some high resolution data over Mary Kathleen. We followed that up with Cloncurry North in 2019, which is immediately north of Cloncurry South, funnily enough. Central Isa was flown in 2019, 2020. And then Kamilaroi, which we flew this year and released in September this year, was part of NEMI, but that contributes to the whole of that airborne geophysical data program. And then the last step, I guess, we'll talk about is the mergers I've done to merge that data into a single datum across the region. So firstly, South Cloncurry was 120,000 square kilometers, 120,000 line kilometers, 100-meter line spacing, 50-meter terrain clearance. Additionally to that, there was a small survey flow over Mary Kathleen at 50 meters line spacing, which was a request of the technical services unit around some work they were doing on the Mary Kathleen area. So a significantly better resolution than the MIM data. So I've got a section of the data over here in the middle, you can see. Nope, there. Which is the MIM data. And then if I click through, that will change into the Cloncurry South data we had for that same area. So you can see obviously the same features are there. You get a lot more resolution of those features, and some of those smaller structural features really start to show up quite nicely at 100-meter line spacing. So the PIDs for all the surveys are down the bottom there, and you can download any of that data. But all this data, if you look at your program, there's a QR code on the bottom. That QR code links to a data set on our Open Data Portal that has a link to every data set done under SREP. So you don't need to write any links down. You should be able to scan that with your phone and download any data sets you wish from the Open Data Portal. Following up South Cloncurry, we flew North Cloncurry, again, 100,000 line kilometers plus, 100-meter line spacing, 50-meter terrain clearance. And that was completed in 2018 and released in 2019. So again, you can see the high resolution that the TMI data there. The first vertical derivative shows up some great features, and just to the nature of the resolution of the data set, you can see across here, that's the water pipeline that runs from Julius to Ernest Henry. So we're picking up cultural features in this data set. So it's quite high resolution data set. And once you dig into it, there's a lot of features in there. Derek will be talking about some of the work he's done on remapping some of these areas based on this data later this morning. And that's the radiometrics data set for the area. So obviously out in the covered areas, not so great. But as you come into some of the outcrop, you start to get some really interesting features showing up in the radiometrics. Subsequent to that, we had our centralizer survey. Centralizer was 88,000 line kilometers. Originally, the survey was meant to start in the summer of 2018, but it was 45 degrees during the day. And so we pushed the survey start until April. We ran from April until the 26th of May, when we had unfortunately, a fatal plane crash that resulted in the death of 2 pilots as part of that. There was quite a large operation in how we go and procure airborne surveys and how we understand their safety aspects of these surveys. But we were able to resume that survey with the same contractor in April in 2020 and finish it there and publish the open data portal, publish the data onto the open data portal. So that was the airborne data done under the Strategic Resources Exploration Program. But since we're talking about it, sorry, the radiometrics is there. The Kamilaroi survey is immediately north of the North Cloncurry and the centralizer survey. 61,000 line kilometers at 100-meter line spacing, 60-meter terrain clearance. After our safety review, we ended up flying this with a Cessna 210, a Cessna 208 compared to a Cessna 210 based on the safety characteristics of that aircraft and the terrain that we're encountering in this area. This was flown this year, May to July, and published just in September. So that's our newest data set. And I've just realized that link at the bottom is wrong, but the link on the website is correct. So we have the RTP data there, and then our radiometric data. Originally after the centralizer survey, we put together a merge of a lot of data sets in the area, building all that onto the same data. So the new surveys we'd flown and a couple of exploration surveys that were open file. And we released that in 2020 after the centralizer survey. Subsequent to that, and with the Kamilaroi survey, I've embarked on a new merge of this data, including the Kamilaroi survey, but also including a lot of the exploration surveys down the western flank of the North Cloncurry survey, and some ones down that have just become open file down in South Cloncurry. So this new merge is still a work in progress. I'll be able to show you some preliminary images today, but I'm still working on that. But that's to include 5 regional surveys flown by the GSQ, about 20 open file exploration surveys, and using the MIM survey as a base map for that. That merge will cover 45,000 square kilometers at 20-meter cell size over that whole area. So there's the first view of that merge data there. So all brought to the same datum, all leveled and all scaled to fit there. And it's also been corrected to the AWAGS survey, which is the Australian-wide aerial geophysical survey conducted by GA. So this is the original merge. So there is a link for that there if people want to download that. So we used Intrepid Grid Merge for that process. Create a range of sets of TMI and RTP, and then radiometric sets. Of all those grids, they're all reprojected to the same projection into GDA 2020. We then shifted and offset the scale of all those to fit along that same datum, and then feathered all the grids into each other to create one uniform grid across the whole region. So that original merge was 36,000 square kilometers. Our new merge will be 45,000 square kilometers over that area. So just a couple of images again. That is the TMI of the merge, the new merge coming out. There's still some issues up in the north up here that I'm still working on some edges for some of the surveys. There's the first vertical derivative of that data, and then the ternary radiometrics. So that should be out hopefully end of this month. If not the end of this month, it'll be out through January. And I'll put up on LinkedIn. And if you do email me, I can send that data to you as soon as it becomes available. So moving on to some other programs we did under the SREP program. Firstly, we had the Cloncurry Extension MT survey. So this was an extension of MT we did in 2016 around Cloncurry. And if you've seen any of the images of the inversion under Ernest Henry, that was the original Cloncurry data set. So that prompted us to expand that survey and grow that. There's 500 new sites to add to the existing 800 sites. I think I'm looking at Janelle. No, you'll tell me the right number when you talk. 2 conversation spacing. that has all been released, and Janelle will be talking about that after me, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about Cloncurry, but that was done under SREP. The next data set we did was the Lawn Hill gravity data set. So this was conducted in 2018. Most of the Mount Isa province is covered by 2 kilometre or greater, or 2 kilometre or better spaced ground gravity. But we constantly have requests on improving the gravity resolution across the inlier. So this was a 1 kilometre spaced helicopter supported ground gravity survey, which covered about 7,000 square kilometres, 7,000 stations. Some stations or some areas were not completed due to some land access issues. And that data was released in 2018. So click through, that is the complete spherical Bouguer correction of the Lawn Hill data set. But as you can see, we have a bit of a gap in the data set there. Onto some NEMI programs that relate to this. After the Lawn Hill survey and some of the issues we had with land access, as well as a constant desire for high resolution data and the problems of collecting a 2D grid of data versus 1D line data, we started looking at applying airborne gravity programs to do regional gravity. So currently, airborne gravity has a filter of about 2.5 kilometres applied to the line data, which means you get an equivalent of about 2.5 kilometre spaced ground gravity stations, which won't improve the data quality in the Isa area or to what industry wants for that data. So we've been looking at airborne gravity gradiometry to fill this gap, and using the regional gravity survey to conform the derived GZ from the airborne gravity gradiometry survey too. This was ongoing discussions we were having with Richard Lane at GA until his unfortunate passing this year. And we're continuing to work on this with GA. So as Helen said, we've just completed the survey last week. So that they finished up Friday last week of this survey. It was flown out of Cloncurry, out near the four-way survey, immediately to the east of the Kamilaroi Airborne Survey, 47,000 line kilometres. So 4,700 line kilometres, sorry. And obviously that data is still being processed. And once the data has been QA/QC'd, that will be released, and we'll be looking at future work on how we can form that to the regional gravity, include that into the regional gravity merge, potentially moving on to this becoming a staple of our regional coverage moving forwards to improve gravity coverage across the area. So they were the main programs done under the SREP. The new discovery program in the SREP. The one last geophysical survey I'm going to touch on is the Kamilaroi Seismic Survey. This survey was not done on new discovery, but under the Frontier Gas Basin Initiative. And this work was done by Sally Edwards. So I'm really just going to present some of the outcomes or some of the end results of that data. But if you have any further questions, I can definitely set you on to Sally. So following on from the GSQ and GA's 2017 South Nicholson survey, the original mapping had the South Nicholson Basin sitting just up here, and then the Georgina Basin coming further south, but no further South Nicholson survey. But from the data here, you can see the South Nicholson does continue to the south. Originally, the sea base model in this area was done in 2006, sorry. But with the updated seismic and the updated sea base, which was done by FrogTech in 2017, we realized that the South Nicholson Basin is more extensive than originally was thought. So the GA survey 2017 was conducted up here in further north. And so the question then immediately came, how far does the South Nicholson extend to the south and how thick is it? And looking at potential hydrocarbon resources in that area. So the Kamilaroi Seismic Survey was conducted in July to August 2019. There were 3 lines totaling about 300 kilometres of deep seismic recorded to 18 seconds. As part of this, there was an extensive cultural heritage compliance and health and safety management compliance focus on the survey conducted in the Captain survey. And it was conducted along roads and pre-existing routes to avoid any land clearing. So there were 3 lines in the purple here, which is quite hard to see now I'm looking at the screen there. But I'm just going to cycle through each of those lines and showcase. Now, this is just 2-way time preliminary field stack data. The data is currently with GA with some further processing going on to build pre-stack and post-stack time migrated and depth migrated data sets. And I just got an email just now to say that they've finished that work and it's in QA/QC at GA. So hopefully they'll release shortly. So this is the C1 line, which is the southmost line, run east-west along the station tracks in the Barclay Down station. You can see the base of the Georgina is highly visible, and it's a good match with the sea base, where you can see the thickening of the basin as you head further east into that area. The C2 line runs north-south right through where we suppose the South Nixon Basin exists. And obviously you can see continuation of the Georgina sequences through there. And then the C3 line is to the north, running east-west as well. So all of this SEG data has been published online. There's 2.8 terabytes of SEG-Y data online. The raw data, the SEG-D data, is available on request. That's 35 terabytes worth of data. Karen will be talking today. I think she'll touch on some of the work she's done on the North Queensland seismic interpretation project with Dominic Brown and Janelle Simpson. And there'll be a future phase of that ongoing in the next few months. And this data will be included in that as well to build a complete skeleton interpretation of the whole region. And as I said, pre and post stack migrated time and depth data currently being created to complement this data. That's it for me. Thank you.
I will use my voice. Thanks, Matt. Any questions for Matt before we move on?
Steve.
Yeah, it was just about the seismic. I think I know the answer to this already, but was there any downhole data collected associated with that in terms of VSP or sonic logs and things?
There was no downhole data collected, but there was a suite of, I think I was going to mention this, there was a suite of, as they were doing some pre-seismic work, there was a whole bunch of samples collected, some geochronology done on that work. That's included in the survey data set as well online, but there was no downhole data data done as part of that, no.
Thanks, Steve. All right.
There was one online. That's all I was going to jump in, and from Richard Scott. I think it's a pretty easy one. You might have already answered it, but what's the ETA on the newer merge? No rest for the wicked. Don't take a Christmas holiday.
No, I know Richard's very keen on this. So I will be getting the data out there December or January at the latest. It's nearly there. And I will, Richard, for you, I will be writing a report on the processes I've undertaken to get that data up there. So the merge steps and how we created that data set, because I know that is of interest as well.